that are happening in some regions and some segments. But globally, we are all in very difficult situation. And it's by working together that we can find a path out, and that's what's going to be my presentation about. I give you another indicator. Here you can see the indicator for order intake, where people can also say if it's good, satisfactory, or poor. And you can see the breakdown per regions. Here I highlighted South Asia. So maybe that corresponds to your feeling that also in 2025 the situation was improving, but in 2024, but in 2025 you see this huge drop again. You can see in this big line that is actually still negative. We can also break down the data by segment. We can analyze the entire value chain. We start here with textile machinery, but then we go up. And here I highlighted finished fabrics because a little bit of hope is that down the value chain in fabrics and also in garments, they are actually reporting a better situation than the rest of the value chain. So there's a hope that this will ripple down all the way through spinning and also fiber production. Now, what's happening behind it? What are the mechanisms that explain this very difficult situation? This slide here tells us, once again, the feeling. People can choose a few indicators amongst the list that you can see here on the slides. And what we see is that it's been 2 years now that the demand has been depressed. Worldwide demand for textile products along the value chain has been depressed for everyone. What's interesting is that the second main concern is geopolitics. 3 years ago when we started, it was not even a topic. But it rose very quickly after the start of the war in Ukraine to issue number 2. And a few months ago, we were obliged to add a new category to these charts, which was tariff. And it became directly the number 2, number 3. So tariffs, the individual decisions of the American government are impacting the entire value chain. The traditional problem that we all have in textile production, costs, logistic cost, input cost, those are still problematic in many, many different places, but relatively less than the problems of geopolitics and demands. Now, what's the future? So we have heard here a lot of information about regulation and sustainability. I'm going to go fast here. But it's very important that to understand the main textile markets, which are Europe and the US, for example, the consumption market are heavily regulating. And in many different areas, sustainability is one of them, but we also have social compliance. And those ripple down all the way down to the producers. And this will really have an impact and will change the way we talk about textile, we think textile. This is the example of sustainability. I'm not going to go through the detail. We had a very, very complete presentation before. But once again, a decision in Europe will impact the way you produce in Pakistan if you want to sell to Europe. So these happen far away, but have a direct impact on how you conduct your own business here in Pakistan. And it's not only Europe and the US, it's also China, it's also Japan. The major economies are all regulating and all focusing on these different aspects. Now, another thing that is changing are the new business models. You all know about, for example, here Shein and Temu, but that's just the end or the following of a long evolution that started in the 1990s with the internet. And the internet has changed the way consumers interact with the product, well, the sales, the buying experience. And this is going to getting shorter and shorter, faster and faster, and this has an enormous impact as well on the way textile products are produced because of lean management, because of inventory management, because we have to increase speed. And what happened is that consumers are used to now have very, very fast delivery of whatever product they want to buy at a cheap price. And one of the insidious effects of that is presented in these charts. This is the consumption, well, the way American consumer share their revenue per category. And the line which is blue down here is which percentage of the disposable income was spent for textile and apparel products in 1997 versus 2000 and I think it's 11 in this one. No, in 21. And it went from 6% to 4%, right? That's 1/3 less of revenue that is spent in textile and apparel in one of the biggest markets for textile consumption. And the problem is that each individual consumer consumes a lot more. So if everybody consumes more and spend less, then it means that every individual piece of garment which is sold at a lower price, and so the loss of margin is pushed down the value chain on the textile manufacturers. And that's why we have a lot of difficulties, especially in the last 15 years, to really, really make a sustainable business. Another thing which is really big and we don't necessarily see it is the growth of second-hand business model. People, if you talk about sustainability, it's supposed to be reduce, reuse, recycle. We are textile producers, so we talk about recycling. But the consumer can have a huge impact by reducing the consumption or by reusing the products. And this market has been exploding in the US, to some lesser extent in Europe. I work in Zurich, in Switzerland. It's a very wealthy country. In the last 2 years, in a street just beside my office, we went from 1 second-hand shop to 5. And that's not a problem with a place where people don't have any disposable income to spend. It's a rich country. It's a question of mentality. They want to do the right thing. This, where it was one dusty, dark shop for some shady clothing. Now it's it's shiny, it's beautiful, you want to walk in. And all that is second-hand. It's been pre-used, it's been pre-loved. Another thing which is very important, that we go a little bit further in the time horizon, it's the shift in the demography. So to illustrate that, I chose to take some graphics from the United Nations. And it's difficult to read, but the blue line is the number of birth, and the red line is the number of death. And this makes us very easy to visualize the dynamics that are coming to us in the future. So on the main graph in the center, you can see the number, that's for the world, global world. And you can see we are right in the middle in 2025, and it's going from 1990, I think, 1950 to 2100. So it's a very long time span. But what happened is that you see that at some point the number of births is going down and the number of deaths is going up. And very far in the future, we will have an inverse. We will have a decrease of population because we will have less people who are born. But now, what is the impact of that if we compare high-income country to low-income country? Currently, high-income countries are already in the decrease. And we have the decrease of birth, and we have the increase of death. Why? Because we have this aging population. So what happened is that you have the productive labor force, which is shrinking, and the share of the population that the labor force has to be paid for old age is growing. So this is not solved. This will have an enormous impact on the purchasing power of all these consumers in the high-income countries. And in the low-income countries, You can see that the number of births is estimated to slow down, to decrease as well, but very far in the future, in about at the end of the century. And the number of deaths is also increasing because of old age, right? But what you see is that this will happen so far down in the future that in between, where is the productive labor force? It is sitting right here. It is sitting in Pakistan, which has, I think, 225 million inhabitants, which has a population, the medium age of the population is 20 years old, right? The reproductive rate is 3.5 child per woman. All that is the capital for the future. It's where the wealth of the future will be created and will come. But you need to, so it's not only Pakistan, but it's currently low-income countries. And if that just plays out through time, you will have an inverse of the markets. The currently high income placed by machine labor. This is something which is possible, and the entire future would take a completely different flavor than what I'm describing right now. But if we continue to work in the industry, then this is what will happen. And I also want to say that, because if we look, the currently advanced economies, they have another problem, is that we peaked in wealth creation. In the US, in Europe, we peaked in wealth creation. It means that the new generation, people who are born in, let's say, 2010, they will never get as rich as their parents. They will be poor. So that's an additional pressure against the purchasing power. So we will have a dramatic shift in the way people consume anything in, let's say, 1 or 2 generations. And textile has the particularity that it's a necessary good to some extent, but it's also a way to give the world to identify ourselves. So we are ready to pay a lot more money for things we don't really need, but we want. And that's the first thing that's going to go away when the average wealth of the middle class will reduce in developed economies. Now the goal, well, the game is completely different in developing economies. Now what needs to be done is good education system, is creating vocational training, is having a good, strong labor force to capture all this wealth creation in the country and be able to meet the future demand. So there's a lot of work that has to be done to make it possible to benefit from this situation. But the situation is very, very likely to come, and it's the moment to think about it, to openly talk about it, and to ask ourselves which step can we take today in order to be ready. Now, in the medium term, we still have to live. We still have to wonder what's happening and where are the opportunities. So here, a point I wanted to make, which is in line with the title of this presentation, the sourcing shift. We talk a lot about the sourcing shift, but ITMF collects the data on shipment of new textile machinery since 1974, and we can, thanks to that, look at the intensity of investment in different countries for different textile technologies. And I want to make clear that we don't see a big shift outside of Asia. So Asia as a whole is still leader in textile production, and I'm going to show here a few charts. What's important is that the share of China's in apparel production is shrinking, but not in textile. China is reinforcing its textile production apparatus, so they are investing massively still. So this is a competing situation, but it also opens a lot of opportunities for outside China for the redistribution. And on the global level, the new tariffs and the geopolitics issues are also benefiting Central America and Africa as well. So to drive this point home, I just want to say here that here you can see a chart is the number of shipped short staple spindles by region, and it's the share to the world total. And the green columns that you see, that's Asia. That's on 100% on all the new short staple spindles shipped every year around the world. You had, in 2024, you have 90% that are going to the region Asia. And on the top line chart, you can see how much of that went to China. And what you can see is that it went down in 2022 after the pandemic, but then it went up again. So China is intensifying the investment in spinning. Same is true for texturing. Texturing spindle, 98% were in China, were shipped to China, to Asia last year, and you can see that it was 94% that went to China itself. So they just completely covered the industry of texturing. Shuttle-less loom, same picture. Share in China is increasing. Everything is staying within Asia. Electric fact knitting machine, same story, but China is being a little bit flat. It doesn't increase as much. It means that here you have a really reorganization within China. This is going to Vietnam, to Indonesia. So within the region, you have a reorganization, but it doesn't leave to Africa or Central America yet at the global scale. The only real exception is large circular knitting, where China is decreasing the investment intensity. So that will also explain that we also know that garmenting is much more mobile than textile production. So you have the low part of the value chain, which is moving first across the geography, and then the upstream will slowly follow. So the message I would like really to bring, and maybe for you to take home, is that the situation in the global textile value chain is extremely difficult. It has never been lived. There are always up and downs, but so long, with so many factors which change and so much uncertainty, has never been the case. So we are living unprecedented time. That's number one. Number two, we cannot expect the future to be like the past. We cannot say tomorrow will be like yesterday. We cannot take the curve of any indicator from the past and say, oh, I'm just going to continue that line to see where I will be tomorrow and project. Because the underlying characteristic of consumption will change. And this will relocate the textile industry around the world at medium, so within 1 or 2 generations. And also we cannot expect that the pie will keep growing up. It's been the case forever. The pie grows up, and it's been spinning up since 2005 with the entry of China, because the pie goes up because we consume more and more textile. Yes, it will continue a little bit. The driver behind that are demographics. We increase population increase. It's also economic. We have an increase in population in the middle class, in purchasing power. But those are exactly the indicators that are very likely to peak very soon, within 1 generation, and decrease after. And at that moment, there will be winners and losers. And the whole point of me being here is to open the discussion about that and help you maybe figure out how you can be the winner of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Olivier. I'm going to call you back for the panel discussion. So it's time for our last panel discussion. And this panel discussion will be about textiles in the changing global economy, responding to the global economic shift and trade dynamics. और इसके लिए we have our panelist, Dr. Olivier, Director, International Textile Manufacturer Federation. Other than that, we have Ahmed Jahangir, Executive Director, Nishat Mills, and Kawar Usman, Head of Textile ICAC. He's going to join us online. Thank you so much. Hi, Kaur. Can you hear us?
I can hear you very loud and
Okay,
clear. Can you hear
thank
me?
you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's start our panel discussion. My first question will be from Dr. Olivier. In what ways does ITMF support collaboration between textile manufacturers across the country, and how important is ITMF's role in advocating fair trade practices in the textile industry?
So, fair trade. ITMF as a federal, as a world federation, ITMF is neutral with respect to trade policy. So this is really the work of the WTO, of the ILO. We are rather cooperating or engaging in specific initiative with intergovernmental associations like the OECD or UNIDO, or maybe some projects, multi-stakeholder project that you might know, that the SLCP, for example, or the fashion charters.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so I do have many questions for you, Dr. Olivier, but I'm going to ask Ahmed Jahangir Sahab. How have ongoing trade tension between the US, China, and India impacted the global textile supply chain, and what opportunity? Definitely we are Pakistanis, so we are definitely looking our opportunities as Pakistani exporters, and how sustainable will it be?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum everybody. So it's almost towards the end of the night, so I'll try to keep my answers as long as possible so you stay awake as long as possible. This is a full-fledged lecture, the question she's just asked. Most people at the onset will say, suddenly Pakistan has gotten a boon because we somehow have a tariff which is lower than some competitor countries. But you have to look at it from holistic. Olivier has already given that, I guess, indication that the global economy or textile economy is not one-dimensional. You have to look at multiple dimensions before you can actually hone in on what's going to happen. So he gave us a interesting setup where it's far into the future. I'll probably hone in a bit more closer to home or closer to in terms of timeline. So the spat between US, it is a spat basically. US is trying to do something that's not part of the regular game that we play in global textiles. So China and India are huge suppliers, and then everybody else is a satellite around them. So different categories that operate in Pakistan, so I'll give you the opportunity or at least benefit. Disruption, everybody knows that has happened. The buyer side is not in difficulty because there is a supply chain difficulty. The first difficulty that we must recognize is that the overall tariff has gone up. So the consumer whose disposable income is not going to go up by 20% or 30% or even 10% in the United States, the demand destruction or demand reduction will happen. So it will affect everybody, not just China, not just India, not Pakistan. It will affect everybody who sells textiles to the United States. But it doesn't stop there. The countries that will have a disadvantage, like India, for example, towards America, where will they go? Them and Bangladesh will go to other markets they've not looked at before because they were quite satisfied in the United States. So they will go to Europe and UK and other markets where Pakistan and other countries might be enjoying a reasonably nice time. So as a result, even though we do nothing, these large countries like China and India will try to come into our business and take away our business. So we have to do something. So it's not an opportunity, it's actually a threat. We have to take it as a threat and act like that rather than just say, oh, it's just going to come to us and it's going to be a very nice time because 50% on India is going to. If that happens, all the globe supply chain as well as buying behavior will change. So now I want to bring to the point that I'm actually trying to make with this scenario. There is opportunity in certain categories. If you look at home textile, after China and India, Pakistan is the country. But if you look at apparel, we're nowhere at the board. And so if you keep investing and saying, oh, we will win in the apparel trade, we will not. Southeast Asia at 20%, us at 19%, we don't stand a chance. And if by November, the United States does not do anything drastic with China, the Indian business that took 2 years to come from China will just try to go back to China. It's not going to distribute to the smaller countries because we neither have the capacity nor the variety or the depth to fulfill the demands of the large retailers. So this is the backdrop that we are sitting at. Supply chain is disrupted. Things are quite strange. Our country is not ready for it for various reasons. And the last part is I don't use the word opportunity at all. In the region, we are the highest cost producer of textile right now. Where is the opportunity? I think we should be very scared and we should actually work with the government, not here. The lobbying part has to happen on the United States side and take this opportunity where we somehow find ourselves at an advantage or on the nice side of the table with the US government and try to get that part. But we have to take it as a threat and act like it.
Definitely, we have to play smart and the tables can be turned anytime. So my next question is from Cover. What are the key objectives of the Cotton and Textile Investment Summit 2026 and how do you envision this summit creating opportunity for the textile industry?
Thank you very much, and I'm really honored to be here. Although I was here in 2019, but in person in a different capacity. Now joining this August forum in a different capacity, so it's a really nice feeling and good to see my friend Olivier over here flying all the way from Zurich. It's lovely to see him. ICAC, we are an intergovernmental organization. Oliver just used the word intergovernmental, so we are intergovernmental organization. So companies and organizations are not our members. Basically, governments are the members of ICAC. Currently, we have 24 member governments, and including EU. So if you add EU, it becomes like 50 more countries. As ICAC, when we interacted with our member governments, we realized that there is a lot of interest by the governments to attract investment in their countries. So there are many member governments who want to initiate the textiles business, and there are many governments who want to increase their textiles exports and textiles manufacturing and textile exports. So keeping this in view, we envision that there should be investment summit, Global Cotton and Textile Investment Summit, in which we can gather all the stakeholders, all the actors of textiles value chain on one platform, so that the countries can attract investment. They can showcase themselves that what are their policies, what are their strengths. And I agree with Ahmed Jahangir Saab, unless the countries won't be having some measures or some facilitation schemes or competitive advantages, or keeping in view their comparative advantages, it would be very hard for the country. So, but the purpose of ICAC is to bring the governments, the private sector, IFIs, DFIs on one platform so that they can attract investment and increase their textile manufacturing capabilities. So this was basically the purpose.
That's a very good approach. And coming back to you, Dr. Olivier, as a global sourcing strategy shift, what region or countries are emerging as a new textile manufacturing hub, and will it be sustainable? I hope Pakistan is among them.
Yeah, that's actually nicely tied with what you just said. Pakistan can be. The opportunity is there because of the labor force and because of the textile industry that you are representing right now. But there are many things that goes against you in terms of policies, in terms of, maybe we'll discuss that later, what makes your life today difficult. And it's relatively less difficult for other countries. So I agree that you have to be scared, maybe. So we are all here today because we want to, the inspiring change, right? One future, we want to discuss what it will be. And there is a role for everyone to play. We have to define what that role is. Now, what's happening is that, for example, within Asia, apparel production is leading, to come back to your question, is now going rather to Vietnam, to Indonesia, to Egypt, to Africa. And this is a real move that's happening right now. Rather apparel production, not textile yet, a little bit. Now, in Egypt, for example, Egypt is profiling itself as the textile hub, the hub for Africa. So they're already there. Turkey is becoming way too expensive because of exchange rates, because of inflation. So manufacturers are moving their production to Egypt. So Egypt is actually right now benefiting from that. In Kenya, you have facilities that are being built right now, Chinese-led, with Chinese financing, despite political difficulties, because everybody is trying to find a way to secure a part of the cake in the future. And I just want to mention last Central America, which the Americas is a little island. It has less impacted by global geopolitics, for example. So they could create a resilient global chain within the Americas. So that's really the things that are happening right now while we are talking.
Wonderful. Coming back to Ahmed, what you said, actually it's a threat. I want to ask you, what steps can a Pakistani textile industry and government take together to lobby for more favorable trade agreements?
So this is something we ask as an industry, as a company, as a team, when I sit in the office on a regular basis, that what exactly needs to change for us to change what we've had. So if we keep doing what we've been doing for the last 50 years, the result is essentially going to be similar, that we are neither here nor there. We don't really have a variety, and there's no depth in terms of supply chain. So we lack a few things that really can take a country of 250 million with 20-year-old, 60% of the population, really propel it into the textile or other fields as well. It's always a combination of factors. So when there is labor, there's capital, but in our case, there are multiple factors that associate back to the same thing. All the big nations which do industry aligns with them. So there are different clusters, they ally each other, people specialize in technology, but not everybody is trying to do the same thing in one company. We are unfortunate because somebody some years ago thought about something called a turnover tax. Because of that one turnover tax that every stage we have to pay, everybody is trying to be everything. So the first thing we need to figure out is get out of this vertically integrated, which is not really efficient enough a model to compete in the world, and actually create alliances where alliance partners who understand how it needs to be done, and actually we can become much more cost effective, much faster to the market, and I think much more innovative, because if I'm only struggling just to think about yarn and fabric and to run everything, and every now and then I have to figure out whether I burn biomass, coal, or something else. We have become engineers rather than textile engineers because we are having difficulty in terms of running factories. But if we could figure out how to do it as a team, it could be alliances across multiple countries and multiple smaller nations where supply chain. So China is the big supplier of things, but Indonesia as well. We can actually get product from Indonesia and not have a rules of origin implied on us of the Chinese origin, and still be able to compete in silk and certain products that Pakistan doesn't make. So I would probably list out the 4 items that I wrote, because I probably think about it every day. So it's alliances, product upgradation, but not from end product. It's the supply chain, how a product gets made and where it might get made. Pakistan is in a unique position in terms of, I would say, this is something that I've mentioned a few times and people don't realize that's how we got ahead. Pakistan does not have an engineering industry. So what did we do? We don't have duties on engineering products. So we started importing the most expensive, the most modern products in terms of manufacturing and teaching our people to run those factories. Most of our competitors still are trying to make their own machinery and have protections against that. The same thing is happening with us on innovation, because we don't produce a lot of other natural fibers or man-made fibers. We can actually create alliances where the supply chain can happen immediately, and then we can do the end of the product or end of cycle product in terms of cut and sew or processing. We have the expertise to do that. And the marketing part is also something that we are doing a fairly easy time because of being an English-speaking country. There are other nations who do a great job in Central Asia, which have the raw material 2-cent electricity, but they're not able to sell their product. So we could actually do that from it. And the last part I always write is, we're lobbying the wrong government. Pakistani government does not have the money, understanding, or the depth to give us anything. We have to lobby the buyer side, whether we buy companies there, whether we align with their cotton associations and try to buy their cotton, because we're a net importer of cotton. We could actually get in US cotton and then supply back product and get an advantage there. So there's so many aspects that we can look at it, but it has to be external, not inside Pakistan.
That's some great ideas. Thank you so much, Ahmed. Now my question is from Cover. How is the US global apparel market evolving in terms of consumer demand, sourcing, trends, and retail models? And what implementation does this have for producer in developing countries?
Thank you. Before answering this question, I want to come back to Ahmed Jahangir's point of view. Actually, Pakistan was one of the few countries who had a comprehensive textiles policy. After Bangladesh and India, Pakistan was the one who introduced a textiles policy, which was quite a comprehensive enough, and we can debate about its implementation on later stages. But in 2009, there was a policy. Then after 5 years, in 2014, there was a policy. Then in 2019, although we got a little bit late, but in 2020, we introduced a policy. So now this trend should be continued, because policy defines a long-term foreseeable future which an investor is looking for. So Pakistan should continue. The last policy has expired, but a new policy should come in. One point is that we are expensive. We have to work on cost of doing business parameters. But along with that, Pakistan one of the pioneer in introducing this DLTL scheme, drawback of local taxes scheme, which came with the different names. It should be continued. And in last, when I was working for the government, we introduced it as an investment tool as well. So if that would be imparted and that would be initiated again, just like in 2017, we came up with 7% DLTL. So that can resolve many of the things over there. With this, Ahmed Jahangir's point that we have to lobby with the governments, I totally agree. And government of Pakistan was the first one back in 2019. We discussed with USTR that we should be given the buyback American cotton arrangement, that the products which we manufacture. So Ahmed, that was formally taken up at the USTR meeting by Ministry of Textile at that point in time. And now myself here in ICAC, I raised this point with the Bangladeshi government. In fact, I talked with the Bangladeshi's commerce advisor and also a special invite to their chief advisor. And we said that, and then I talked with Uzbekistan about this. So these countries were aligned, and I agree that the private sector has to come forward and discuss those things with with others, because in this way, because our cotton production is going down, but that cotton can be used for other markets, the local ones or the European ones, and the American cotton can be used for transformation into value-added products, and then we can export at duty-free, which will be quite an advantage compared to others. So coming back, these are important things which we have to see. Now, if I see, before I go to America, let me come with the importance of textiles over here. In Pakistan, we not measure the per capita income as such, but if I go by Indian per capita consumption for clothing, that is like $84 per annum per capita over there. So if we take this Indian 84 as per capita, So Pakistan domestic consumption comes out to be close to like 2021 billion dollar. We export like 18, 19 billion dollar. So it's a $40 billion industry every year in a retail value side, I'm saying, not the ex-factory price. So this is how this much is important. And our GDP is close to like 400. So it's close to like 9 or 10% industry in Pakistan. That is very important for us. And similarly, when I talk about this Pakistani per capita that is like close to 80 or 84, taking India as an example, if I take America, America is the second largest spender in the world. The UK is the number one. They spend like $1,200 per annum, and US is close to like $1,000. So you can well imagine the wealth in these countries, and we can take them as an opportunity over there. And our share in their market is not more than 3 and 4%. So this is another aspect we have to see. And lastly, I will just add here that if we see the global cotton and textiles whole value chain, you would be astonished that there are many textile products line in which the export volumes are close to like 70 or 80 billion dollar, and Pakistani exports would be only 300, 400. So we need diversification as well. So there are many factors in which we can work. There is a huge market available for Pakistan, and it is the government and the private sector, they have to come forward. I would just add here that when you interact with different governments, when you interact with different private sector, we have one of the best private sector. The personality they have, the talking style, the working, the knowledge, and the education. Our entrepreneur is nothing less than anyone in the Europe or US. They just have to be visible. And many people, after listening to the things about Pakistan, they just say one word: Pakistan is an undersold country. So we have to work together so that how we can sell our country in a better way in the international market.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And definitely, Pakistan has a lot of potential. I have two questions, and one is from Ahmed. Are you seeing increased interest from buyers looking to diversify away from traditional suppliers? And where do you see the biggest opportunities for growth or innovation for Pakistani textile firms?
So I think it's only logical when you're a large country where you seem to be in a good situation there, and the two largest competitors are having difficulty with your primary buyer. There's a massive amount of interest. I mean, we just had a market week in September. That was in the middle of September in New York. We haven't had that many people force themselves in to the showrooms and try to get meetings, and we were having multiple meetings at the time. And this includes not just importers, retailers. Normally, you have to go after retailers and sort of beg them to come and somebody to come and see. That didn't happen. Even for a change, the ambassador, Pakistani ambassador to the United States, he actually came and saw all the companies that, you have a unique opportunity. What do you feel? There is massive interest, and I want to qualify that statement, that they understand and know the size of our industry and the capacity we have. So we can't replace some of the players in this market. So for example, Trident is the largest towel maker in the world. There are certain programs they do with Costco and Walmart. If they even give it to me, so this is a jacquard-based towel. The entire number of jacquards that we have in this country cannot do those two programs. That only one company does. So we are not shying away from certain things, but we must be realistic. So the customers are very interested. They are talking about the capacity, what you can do. They want to give you a chance, but they'll give a percentage of that to diversify towards you. But you have to understand, the reason I keep saying it's a threat and a challenge, that when they want to diversify and reduce the concentration risk, just a country of production, COP, so it's not just going to happen only positivity to us. Things like home textile, which are concentrated to Pakistan, will also go out, because they will diversify out from Pakistan as well. So what we need to do is not just hang ourselves in what we can get in 3 months or 6 months, or if the tariff will remain 50%. No, we have to make a fundamental decision. what product ranges and variety we want to be in. So what we do is a very narrow product range. We need to be in a much wider product range. And the reason we can do it now is because there's a unfair opportunity available to us. The supply chains were already married to the big countries who now find themselves in a bit of bother. So all of those suppliers in Southeast Asia, in Europe, and in Indonesia, and some parts of China, they are looking for a buyer. And a mature textile industry, if they want to look at a big one outside of India and China, Pakistan is it, other than the garment manufacturing in Vietnam, Bangladesh, and Southeast Asia. So we still have a much bigger industry and a potential to upscale on the cut and sew business, that we can actually have this opportunity and do a very good job with it. But the raw materials we don't make. So we need to get into more variety, more products. Some of the things that we've discussed in this trip is, I've never even heard of these things. 100% polyester based things that are as air permeability, nice, they dye well, they have durability, they're sort of sustainable in the terms that they can be handed down to other family members. And this is something that's been going on for a while. But Pakistan was never even invited to the party. And now we are being offered these products. And it took me 3 weeks just to figure out how to make it. And we already have an order for that. And it's not just me. Multiple Pakistani companies got an order that we never even knew existed at this quantity. There's a massive opportunity there from that perspective. However, this is all glamorous fashion business. What Pakistan always lacks is that we shy away from the unglamorous business, the tender business, the military business, the workwear business. I kid you not, that is bigger than the fashion industry. The miners, the Rio Tintos, the BHP Billetons, the amount of product they buy in terms of uniforms, the bed sheets, and they keep buying the same thing. So we took a detour from our normal business and we went and started talking to the Ministry of Justice and the jails of the world. So the biggest problem with recycling, and this is a side note for people who like jokes about recycling, is the minute you bring a textile product, you have to either make it back to white, which takes a lot of energy, but if you recycle the same color and sort it, the color that comes out is not in your control because you have to add in some virgin material, and so the green will not remain green. So the prisoners use a towel which is green, VAT dyed in United Kingdom. If you bring it back, which I'm doing right now, and you mix it with some material and make the towel again, it is less green. But the prisoners don't care if the same green goes back to them. That's a huge industry that we don't do. Somebody else was doing all this business. And now they are giving Pakistanis to this opportunity. This party was never brought to our table. So this opportunity will never come again. So we need to get out of this same things that we do every day and find out these, I would say, non-glamorous, unconventional businesses which have huge sizes. So that's my...
Absolutely, we have to think out of the box sometimes. Okay, so the last, but I guess very, very important question I'm going to ask you, Dr. Olivier. Pakistan faces increasing competition from regional players like Bangladesh, India, and Vietnam. In your view, what must Pakistan's textile industry to do to stay competitive in global market?
Yeah, very, very good question. I think a lot of, so some aspects have been discussed by Usman, some aspects have been given here. I think because a company needs to have a healthy product mix if you want to, have good business, but a country too. So I completely join you in there. Another aspect that you talked a lot about alliances. The way you used to make money in the past, it was for vertical integration of capital. You want to own the whole value chain. In the future, it's vertical integration of information. Yes. Right? So in this case, there's a first mover advantage right here. Something that we can do right here. It's the way you will conceive your business, how you think, how you are entrepreneurial. We produce, textile is thousands of years old. But the way we produce it, those processes, they can be reinvented. So here there's really a card to play. However, there are big, big challenges in Pakistan. I come from the global value chain, so I'm not a specialist of the Pakistani industry. I ask some questions, gather some information, and from my point of view, the big, big challenges are energy, fiscal, and infrastructure. So energy, we heard that a few times. It's way higher relatively to your competitors, so it puts a lot of pressure on textile manufacturing. In the fiscal aspect, we have the upfront sales tax payment. If I understand correctly, the refund happens only after the good has been shipped. So this is an additional extreme pressure on the manufacturer. Increase export duty on yarn, for example, all that needs reforms. Very high interest rates relative to the region. That depresses investment. How do you want to invest in technology to be more efficient if your access to capital if the government comes in the way of access to capital? This is really difficult. And the last point would be safeguarding the infrastructure and the value chain. I mean, geographically, Pakistan could be a hub between South Asia and the Middle East and Central Asia. There's really a way to be a hub, to play a major role here in the middle. But the infrastructure, unfortunately, with the erratic monsoon, with the devastating floods that you've suffered, all that needs a strong government response, rebuilding and maintaining, and long-term vision. So I would say that we can talk about all the benefit things, everything that is nice and should be done. But as long as those challenges of energy, fiscal, and infrastructure are not handled by the government, it's going to be hard for you to compete against Vietnam, Indonesia, Turkey.
Wonderful.
I do want to add something. This is another, sorry about that. I can easily tell you that if you look at most people in this room, they are all selling their goods on credit, DA or some. You'll be surprised that we have a huge country, one of the largest exporters. We have no credit insurance system in this country. So anybody in Europe can just sell to another European and the government has a credit insurance. You're not worried about your money not coming back. That is a humongous burden on the psyche and small and medium-sized players. I mean, I know we've talked about the amazing entrepreneurs of Pakistan, and I agree with that. But if somebody takes their money, they have no ability to go to France and fight a case in the French language. They will never be able to win. So I understand the energy part, but people tend to just focus on the 2 or 3, forget the fundamental, the money supply is the lifeblood of a business. If we cannot secure it and make it easy to sell and stop worrying about that, we will stop worrying about the product mix. We'll all be making assessments of the customer and trying to go meet them all the time, that try to read if he's going bankrupt or not.
Okay, so now we will move towards our audience and any questions? I guess it's a right time. Don't you have any question regarding our competitor, how to beat India? Like any question from audience? Okay, we have one.
Hello everyone. So my question is from Mr. Ahmed Jahangir. You said the question is basically for learning purpose. For Pakistani suppliers, if we say that, how can Pakistani suppliers can become more accountable for in human rights and climate justice into their sourcing operations? Because when we see on the costing side, it push us on the other direction. Thank you.
Can you please repeat your question?
No, I just want to make sure. You're talking about the human rights and labor policy perspective?
And climate justice.
Sorry?
Human rights and climate justice into sourcing operations.
Okay, human rights and climate change. So first of all, you have to understand that's part of what we need to do, and along with certain other things, the European Union has been very generous and given us GSP+. Companies like Nishat, I can tell you, we talked about Europe being 30% for in home textile and towel and the stuff that I look after, we are more than 70% Europe. And that's purely because the GSP Plus existed and we benefited from it. We have by and large followed the path of doing the things that we need to do. But in certain cases, because it's not in individual company control, it's more government related, there are things that we still need to do. as organizations and associations, we continue to push for it, but there is a gap. And the gap usually comes in your human rights and your labor policies. And the reason is the way labor policy is looked at from the European perspective, it misses out on certain things. Well, I'll give you an example. They want somebody to come to another factory from 22 hours away or 2,000 kilometers, but only work for a few hours and then sit in a room for do nothing. And so there has to be a way to do something more for them, and they'll be able to do more without making them go into the level of hardship that creates a problem. So automation has come to our industries and all these things. But the original labor laws or ILO laws and the way they are interpreted by the compliance people in Pakistan, we continue to have the same problem. And the reason is we have never created our own standards. So there should be a Punjab standard, there should be a Pakistan standard with logical reasoning which might differ from what we're trying to do. So on the labor laws, I think there's a lot more room to have an understanding that at the end of the day, it's the income of the individuals who are working in your industry are far more important than trying to restrict them to an arbitrary number of hours, which was concocted maybe 25, 35, 40 years ago, and people think that's a 40-hour work week is the only thing that should happen, because the labor works in a much better air-conditioned environment as far as Nishat is concerned, and could easily work for longer if need be. On the human rights side, you have to understand the fundamentals of all humans are the same, and we need to give it to them. But my problem is that we are again looking at from a different perspective. So we have a proposal, we do that as a company, that we will give employment to women, and we have a lot of women who work in whose husband is also working. And the reason I say that is, if you look at the minimum wage of a stitching person, and they can earn between 40 to 75,000, and two of them are doing that, that's 150,000 rupees a month. And if both of them work, they're already out of poverty. Most of the time what's happening is we're trying to promote and give jobs to households where majority of the rest of the team is not playing along and they're a burden. So they continue to remain in that cycle. Organizations, provinces, local governments, we are all responsible to identify where success can happen more easily and do that rather than trying to take everybody along and not achieving anything. I might sound a bit cynical or self-serving, but I tell you, these experiments have happened at very different scales in our company and in our industry. They've proven to be fantastic. And then that becomes an example that others follow. Automatically you take up these rights. It's very difficult to keep giving somebody money and say they will live a life. You have to create a better environment for them to earn the money. But it has to be in a way that everybody is participating in it. Even if you have to go and fight with the Western world, which has created the rules, this is where the population is. India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh. This is where a very large part of the population of the world is. This is high time we actually start discussing it, these terms on our terms, and define them on our terms. And I think we can do that on both aspects.
Thank you so much for the question. Anyone else? Anyone? Okay.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ijaz Khokar. I am from Sapphire. My question is not directly related to this forum, but it is related to the survival of the industry, the cost of production of any, especially spinning, weaving and dyeing, which are more energy-oriented institutions than your garments industry, compared to garments. Why we are seeing and waiting for the government that they will make the cheaper energy, they will provide the cheaper energy? Because if you look at the investment versus your cost, the highest is the, after the raw material is the electricity cost. Then 50% is half of there is the labor cost. For lowering the labor cost, you need the new machinery, you need the more investment. So it is not feasible in this case. Already many spinning mills are being closed. The other one thing is only remaining is the electricity cost. If we have 32 rupees or 30 rupees per unit, we can bring it to 10 rupees. But you and the higher authorities at Aptama, why not why not you sit with the government that the wheeling should be allowed, because the textile sector only needs the 3000 megawatt energy to run all the industry, and 3000 megawatt for dam and versus solar. If you compare the solar and the dam, if you make the 1000 megawatt dam, it costs 4.25 billion US dollar. And if you compare the same units to take the same unit from the solar energy on grid unit, same unit per year, it costs only 1.25 billion. It means 3.5 times dam is more costly nowadays than the solar energy. And we have a land in Chakwal and other where there is not agricultural land. We have surplus land about nearby the motorways and everywhere. If you allow the wheeling, government allows the wheeling, we can produce only, we need the 12,000 megawatt of solar energy to become this industry, to give the free energy for forever, 23 years, 50 years, 30 years. There is only, what is the problem between the government and the industrialist, why not they allow the wheeling? Otherwise, you don't need the biomass, too much pollution is there. We need only 12,000 megawatt solar, and which is you can say 10,000 or 15,000 spindles cost. If you invest this cost for 50,000 spindle mill, you can get the free energy. Our mill's bill is 15 crore per month, and if we bring it to the half, 7 crore will be our extra profit. So I think there is no science behind this, that you can go to the Damir Basha Dam, every cost is available on the internet, only net and chat GPT, you calculate that. Dam is 4 times expensive than any solar installation. So why we are waiting for the government that they will make the dam hydropower, cheap energy, green energy? Why we not sit with the government for this purpose? This is not a difficult task. It will also give us a green energy. So 10% of the our need every year increasing.
Okay, we got your question.
You got the
Ahmed
question.
Saab, can you please?
If I may, let me be a bit more blunt about this. You asked so many questions that I'm trying to figure out where to start and where to finish. So, what you've just asked me, the secretary power and secretary investments and minister and there's a whole bunch of people who get paid should actually be answering this question. So the short answer why the government is not doing it, because they don't like us. You think that our government in its core is pro-business. It's not. So, stop thinking that they will help you out, and they're not. They don't think like that. But I have to bring certain things that you've said. This is a conversation I have on a regular basis, and there is this misunderstanding that we have created, like we created in IPPs. None of the energy producing options like solar, like wind, like hydel are base loads. They don't run for 24/7. Your textile industry in Sapphire runs 24/7, 365 days. Am I right? None of these things, the dam, the solar, nothing runs 365 days and 24/7. So first of all of these options that we discuss, and these people discuss on TV as well, are additives to our base energy production. It is the same for the rest of the world. So you left out solid municipal waste, agri waste. At Nishat, we even do solid municipal waste. So we did that till 2019 in a big way. Almost 1,000 ton was separated. We took 200 tons of carbon, used that, and the other 800 was used in biodigesters to create the gas that ran the plant. So I'm just coming to where your original question was. All of this can happen, but it cannot be done by companies. It has to be done by a nation or a province or a much bigger entity, whether externally forced or internally. For example, everybody who lives in Lahore, it's 20 million people, we generate enough solid municipal waste that if we collect it, do the primary sorting at your homes and at the commercial areas, send it to incinerators and the power plants we already have that run coal and they run biomass. Same chain grades can be modified to run that solid municipal waste. And we will not need anything. That's one. Second, the amount of cotton that we produce, just the cotton that we produce in this country, the cotton sticks, Brazil uses it, many other people use it, can produce more than between 6 to 10,000 megawatts, which is easily for us. But that is still not the solution. Because in our country, the electricity production is the business of the government, all we can do is, and which we are trying to do and failing miserably, is convincing them that, this is what it costs to generate the electricity, this is the grid that you have for the country, take wheeling charges from us, we will produce electricity at a much cheaper rate where it's supposed to be produced. For example, if it's wind, it's better to produce it near the shores. But my factories are all in Lahore. What do I do? So I should be able to give that electricity to the government of Pakistan, pay the wheeling charges, and take that environmental friendly and carbon friendly and carbon neutral energy from my factory. Unfortunately, we're not there yet. We need to change a lot more than just a couple of people to be able to do that. There is a reason behind that. Because our revenue system fundamentally depends on the product, petroleum levy and electricity and the taxes we charge. If we do that, where is the money for the government going to come? Right now, if you know, furnace oil has a extreme high tax because they wanted us to go to gas. Then it became LNG because now they want us to go to the grid. But if all the industry stays away from the grid collapses. But the industry didn't go to the grid because we have machinery that it costs billions of rupees, which will go bad if we go to the grid. So we are still fighting this war. We have a much bigger fight compared to other nations where you turn on a factory and the electricity comes. So your point is well taken. My answer is, I don't have an answer to solve the problem yet.
I understand.
Sir,
Thank you so much.
Sir,
Let's conclude this session.
One question between this, please let me allow. This is
It
not
should
a
be
small
short. It should be.
conference.
I know.
This is
Just make it
international
short. There are
Yes.
so many
Only
people
one-
are
Only
waiting.
one
so-
question. to
Yeah,
clear.
please go ahead.
Sir has asked that the solar is not available for 24 hour, okay. But my question is that if I invest 5 times of my capacity, like my home, I use 1 kilowatt every time, but I install 5 kilowatt. So my bill is 0. In the daytime, I give 5 units to the government. In the night time, I use 5 units, okay. In the same strategy, wheeling plus net metering for the bigger industry, if we have 6 megawatt consumption in Sapphire in 1 unit, and we have only the roof for 3 megawatt, then 3 megawatt we further need in the morning. But if we have the 6 megawatt, we have a 20% of the solar. So we can invest 30 megawatt anywhere installation, 30 megawatt, it will produce the 24-hour units for us. In the daytime, 30 megawatt, government take some of the unit we are consuming and some of the unit our other people are consuming. But in the night, they can give us from the same units. In the daytime, they can close their, you can say, the thermal power, and they reduce the water from the dams. But this is the
I'll stop you right there.
Yes.
What you're saying, we already do. We have tried to do. We have 45 megawatts of solar power in Nishat. See, what you're saying is, oh, I use it in my house, and when I don't need it, I sell it to the grid. For that, the grid has to happen. For the grid size of the country costs billions of dollars. Just because you want a cheaper electricity, what should the government do for the rest of the 16 hours that you're not taking the electricity? That's billions of dollars they don't have. So that's why we're being taxed. We have the generation capacity, we just don't have the distribution capacity. What needs to happen is, somewhere in the middle, we have to start relying on the grid for the electricity that we produce, and they become only a distributor. They stop generating because they're not doing a great job. Somehow, this whole concept of government being in the business of business has to stop. And the countries who have progressed in the world don't do it. They regulate, they direct, they change rules and regulations to tell the private sector to do what they want to do in terms of human rights, environment, and people do it because there is a cost associated to being a non-conformist. But at least they're not completely ruining the show, or they're not unaware of what's going to happen 1 year from now, because the industries have to run for 20 years. We have no idea what's going to be the cheapest raw material. So in Nishat, we have a gas backup, furnace oil backup, tri-fuel backup, biomass backup, coal backup, and solar backup and wind backup. Do you know 11% of our balance sheet is just power plants sitting? This used to be 1% 35 years ago. Pakistan Textile Council did a presentation And the answer we got was like just 11%. So the people we are talking to don't have the comprehension of what we're saying. So stop believing that they will do something. We have to do it ourselves.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Once again, it's time to conclude our
Thanks
this
for you.
panel discussion. And I would like to thank Dr. Olivier, Ahmed Jahangir, and Kamar Usman. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. So as we all know, it's all about to conclude this conference, but not before I welcome this person who is behind this legacy. Yet another successful Text Talk International Inspiring Change Conference. And we all know the name of this man. Please give him a really, really big round of applause for Mr. Yusuf Farid on stage, everyone.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests, as we bring the 8th International Inspiring Change Conference, ICC 2025 to a close, it is my honor and privilege to address you all. First and foremost, I extend my deepest gratitude to all of you who have taken the time to join us, whether from Pakistan or from around the world. Your presence, participation, and engagement have been the true strength behind this conference. Over the course of this event, we have had the opportunity to hear from the industry leaders, experts, and visionaries who have not only shared the knowledge, but also have discussed many opportunities and challenges that lie ahead. And most importantly, we have reaffirmed our shared commitment to building a more sustainable, innovative, and collaborative textile industry. I sincerely hope that the connections made here will continue to grow and result in long-term partnership and impactful outcomes. I also extend sincere thanks to all the speakers, panelists, our sponsors, Cotton USA, Vico, iTextiles, TTI, and WWF. And special note of thanks go to my TexTalks team, Aruj, Imran, Aida, whose dedication and tireless efforts have made this event possible. Organizing a conference of this scale is never easy, and I am thankful to Allah of what we have accomplished together. And special thanks to CCI team, Mazhar Bhai, Dr. Tanveer Saab. Let us take this idea, partnership, and inspirations gathered here and translate them into meaningful actions in our factories, in our boardrooms, mills, and our communities, and beyond. As we conclude, I leave you all with the reflection: the future is not something we enter. The future is something we create together. Let us carry forward the movement we have created here today and continue to work together for the advancement of our industry and the betterment of global community. Thank you once again for your presence, your insights, and your trust in this platform. We look forward to welcoming you again in 2026. Safe travels and best wishes to you all. Thank you.
So it's time to sign out. Thank you so much for being part of this legacy. Thank you so much for coming and listening with all your mind and heart. This was your host, Farah Hashmi, signing out. Pakistan Zindabad, and a very yummy-licious dinner is waiting for you. Thank you so much. Take care. Allah Hafiz.
Recording.